Welcome to episode 2 of our collaborative work. Right now we're calling it Regency Letters. And if you haven't listened to the first part, I'll link that video below. Last week we met Corinna, who's in London for her season, and she's mostly concerned about how to get her letters to this gentleman she's writing in Paris into the post without her brother knowing. It's very improper for her to be writing to him. We also met Nora, her best friend, who couldn't come to London this season and so is back in Kent looking for and making adventure. And one of the comments that I received this week was that we want to know who Lord W is, the man that Corinna is writing to. And so I've kind of moved that up. And to do that, I had to add this postscript to the last letter. P.S. The latest response from your gentleman acquaintance in Paris arrived on the same day I received your letter. Mother was ill again, and I almost missed the post. I only had time to write your new direction on his letter and send it with mine. I sincerely hope by the time it arrives you have found a way to receive his letters without your brother's knowledge. So, here's our first letter from this gentleman. October 4th, 1792, 35 Rue du Faubourg Saint-Honoré, Paris, France. Dear Lord Capener, I read the abstract of your biography with interest. Maria Theresa is indeed a fascinating historical figure. She made important sweeping reforms through all the Habsburg dominions over which she reigned sua jure, Latin for in her own name. I have one suggestion for you to consider. If you added more political and social context in your work, her life and reign would take on added interest and show the significance of what she accomplished. In her father's time, the War of Polish Succession and the Russo-Turkish War weakened the state Maria Theresa inherited. Then immediately when she came to the throne, she faced the War of Austrian Succession. I have listed below some articles that you might find helpful should you decide on further research. Some of these works are difficult to find, so I have taken the liberty of submitting your name for membership to the London Corresponding Society. You might also consider a subscription to the Gentleman's Magazine. That periodical publishes scholarly works, not only about history and politics, but also the arts of various eras. I find expanding my research enriches my feel for the culture and philosophies of my chosen subject. You may find the same. In answer to your question about the situation in France, I will tell you that every day the Jacobins grow in power and conditions deteriorate. I tell myself things cannot get much worse, but they do. The food riots in January, France's declaration of war with Austria, Hungary, and Bohemia in April, and the 2 invasions of the Tuileries over the summer with their attendant massacres were brutal in the extreme, but the people's rage does not diminish. Now they have tried King Louis XVI for treason and abolished the monarchy. Even the old forms of address are banned, and everyone is now titled citoyen or citoyenne. I have become aware recently that not only are the revolutionaries trying to build a new future, but many are also trying to destroy any record of the past. This is not so prevalent in the North since the establishment of the National Archives 2 years ago, but in the South, mobs break into church property where priceless historical documents have been stored for centuries. They throw the priests out, take their scrolls, some medieval, to the town squares and build bonfires. All the while the people cheer. Then the monasteries, cathedrals, and parish churches are used as stables, the French farm animals surrounded by ruined, century-old frescoes. As the people take over castles and palaces, they confiscate any record of feudalism that bred the current political and social systems. Medieval deeds, charters, genealogies, titles. Not only do they seek to dispossess the nobility, they are determined to destroy any proof or legal justification for the control of the aristocracy and clergy. Before this revolution is over, I expect that millions of volumes will burn. In their zeal, they have forgotten that books are power. They reveal to us the past, not only politically and socially, but also culturally and artistically. I feel my time in France is coming to an end. Now that England has broken diplomatic relations, it is inevitable the French will soon banish all British citizens. With the time I have left, I am working to save as many of the French historical documents as I can from the widespread destruction. As a historian yourself, you'll understand my quest. I have found others who share my interest in this matter. It is a dangerous undertaking, but together we are doing what we can. My friend, I thank you for your letters. Amidst the madness that is France right now, it is good to communicate with someone of sound judgment and clear insight. I hope we can continue to correspond even through the coming changes. I have arranged for your letters to be forwarded to my next posting. I will write to inform you when I know of my new situation. Respectfully, Lord Daniel Wycliffe. October 18th, 1792, 32 Portman Square, London. Dear Nora, you've been dreaming of Remington Manor for ages. I'm impressed at your cleverness to find a way in. I wish I could have been present to explore with you. Your solution for posting my letters to Lord Wycliffe, however, was a little too clever for me. I didn't feel confident enough for such an intricate ploy, nor brave enough to face Rupert's ire at my repeated clumsiness. Lacking any other ideas, I decided to do as you first suggested. I have cultivated the habit of taking a walk every morning, no matter the weather. Minna thinks I'm very eccentric, but she is happy to let me do her errands. After receiving her charges, I wait, skulking, in the dining room until Rupert's secretary comes out of the study with my brother's correspondence. I meet him, quite by chance, on my way to the door. The first few days I said, "Good morning, Mr. Fairley. I would be happy to drop Rupert's correspondence at the post while I'm out." He no longer waits for me to offer. Now he just smiles and holds out the stack of letters. I put Rupert's letters in my reticule with mine, and the thing is done. I also bring home the letters coming to us from the General Post Office, and I'm so glad I thought of it. I avoided some uncomfortable questions yesterday. I saw your letter, and in my anticipation of reading your news, I didn't look through the remainder of the post. I had accepted the likelihood that I wouldn't receive news from Lord Wycliffe for a few more weeks. I stopped for a few moments to stuff the remainder of the post into my reticule when an impatient and very rude gentleman walked into me and made me drop all the letters. Then he looked down his nose as if I were the most simple-minded dunderhead in London. I was so stunned I didn't even try to defend myself. I see more outright disrespect in the city, perhaps because people assume they will never see the recipient of their bad manners again. I try not to let it affect me overmuch. In this instance, I came to be grateful for his lack of manners. When I stooped to collect the post, I saw the second letter, the one from Lord Wycliffe. You were right to encourage me to overcome my fear and send a sample of my work thus far on the biography of Maria Theresa Walburga Amalia Christina. Lord Wycliffe was so accommodating as to read it immediately and reply to me. To my brother. Oh, how I hate to deceive Lord Wycliffe. I have the greatest respect for him and his scholarship. I tell myself that other than the direction and Rupert's name at the end of each letter, the words and thoughts are mine. But he doesn't know that. You have heard all of this before, so instead of repeating my remorse, I'll tell you what he said. He was quite positive and encouraged me to do more research on the culture and politics of the time to add richness and meaning to the story of Maria Theresa's life. Of course, Lord Wycliffe is right. I'm excited to delve deeper into European history in the first half of the 18th century. To that end, I am pleased to tell you that Rupert now has a subscription to the Gentleman's Magazine. He just doesn't know it. I also wrote a letter to Mr. Thomas Hardy and Mr. Joseph Haydon, the founders of the London Corresponding Society. I expressed Rupert's desire to join their society. I asked them to report the results of their deliberations via post. How to gain access to their library I do not yet know, but I will think of something. I must. Now I will leave discussion of Lord Wycliffe's letters. Although when he talks of what he's seeing in Paris right now, I'm enthralled and sometimes horrified. I'll share more later. However, since I'm here to participate in the season, I will report one good development this week. One of Minna's school friends, Lady Ballantyne, is in town to help Miss Philippa Morton make her come out. Minna is hosting a ball to introduce Miss Philippa, and we have been spending a good deal of time planning that ball. Though I feel like an insipid giant next to her tiny dark-haired beauty, she has been very kind to me. I would prefer if you were here, but I'm so relieved to have a new friend close to my age who will be present at social events. I feel more able to face it all. For example, last night we attended a supper party at Lord and Lady Wyndham's. I was seated next to Lord Craven, one of the most puffed up and boring young men alive. But periodically I would meet the understanding in Philippa's eyes, and I was able to laugh inwardly and endure. There was a gentleman in attendance who is a friend to Lady Morton and Philippa. Sir Julian recently returned from India, so while I smiled and nodded at Lord Craven, I trained my ears to eavesdrop on some of Sir Julian's stories, so the evening was not a total waste of time. I also met Lady Delia Markham, daughter of the Duke of Langford. She's making her come out this year as well. I liked her very much, even though her blonde, blue-eyed beauty will render me invisible in company. But now I have the comfort of knowing that no matter where I go, I am bound to have some much-needed support. I look forward to hearing about the school foraging day. I'm making a guess, but I will not be surprised if you find a way to sneak in the manor again. Yours, Corinna. One more. October 18th, 1792, 32 Portman Square, London. Dear Lord Wycliffe, thank you for your letter of October 4th. It arrived first in Arpinge and caught up to me in London yesterday. I believe you are right about historical context. Your list of articles and books will be invaluable. I await response from the founders of the London Corresponding Society. In the interim, I have purchased a subscription for the Gentleman's Magazine. My primary concern now is to find a source for back issues of the magazine where I hope to find articles about the historical events leading up to Maria Theresa's birth in 1717 until her death in 1780. Since we have begun corresponding, I have more closely followed events in Paris. Your recent news is disturbing. My concern grows each day. As I've read about the terrible state of the poor in France and have begun noticing the poor in our own nation's capital, I admit to a certain sympathy for the cause of the common people. After generations of abuses by the privileged classes, I understand their desire for change. But I question how a new and better government can be built on a foundation of such an excessive cruelty and widespread violence. The debate over fair government has spread to England's shores, and in some instances has flared into violence here, though not anything like you describe. We are also seeing an increase in émigrés, both royalists and priests who refused to take the oath of loyalty to the government and escaped the recent massacre in Paris. I read that 1,200 were not so fortunate and were killed. Of course, you are more than aware of all these events as you are in the center of this maelstrom. I did mention it because of my concern for your safety, indeed the safety of all British subjects residing in France in these unsettled times. I beg you will take special care. Yours in friendship, Lord Rupert Capener. So, comment below what you think should happen next, and like and subscribe, of course, and we'll see you next week. I'll write whatever you think I should write next. Thanks.